Inhasabhara Sri Charana Shire Vandi Nijadhana Lila Gaila Krishna Das Sri Caitanya Nityananda, Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Acharya Sri Advaita Chandra, Sarup Rupa Raghunath Das, Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. Inha Sabhara, of all of them, Sri Charane, the lotus feet, Shire, on the head, Vandi, offering respect, Nijadhana, personal property, Janma-lila, narration of the birth, Gaila, sang, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Taking on my head as my own property the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. I, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, have thus described the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please repeat. Taking on my head, as my own property, the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Sarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. I, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, have thus described the advent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda, Advaita Prabhu, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, Raghunath Das, and their and their followers are all accepted by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami. Anyone who follows in the footsteps of Kaviraj Goswami also accepts the lotus feet of the above-mentioned lords as his personal property. For a materialistic person, material wealth and opulence are only illusory. Actually, they are not possessions but entanglements, because by enjoying the material world, a conditioned soul becomes more and more entangled by incurring debts for his present enjoyment. Unfortunately, a conditioned soul considers property for which he is in debt to be his own, and he is very busy acquiring such property. But a devotee considers such property not real property, but simply an entanglement in the material world. If Lord Krishna is very pleased with a devotee, he takes away his material property, as he states in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.88.8, Yasyaham anugrinami harisye tadhanam shanai. To show special favor to a devotee, I take away all his material property. Similarly, Narottam Das Thakur has said, Dhanamor Nityananda Radha Krishna Sri Charana Shemor Prana Dhana. My real riches are Nityananda Prabhu and the lotus feet of Sri Radha and Krishna. He further prays, O Lord, kindly give me this opulence. I do not want anything but your lotus feet as my property. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung in many places that his real property is the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Unfortunately, we're interested in unreal property and are neglecting our real property. Adhane yatana kori dhana te aginu. sometimes smartas consider Raghunath Das Goswami a Shudra. But Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami here especially mentions Swarup Rupa Raghunath Das. Therefore, one who considers the lotus feet of Raghunath Das to be transcendental to all divisions of the caste system enjoys the riches of actual spiritual bliss. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, taking on my head as my own property the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Acharya Advaita Chandra, Swarup Damodar, Rupa Goswami, and Raghunath Das Goswami. And so the words in the Bengali, which is the same word, comes in Sanskrit. Dhana. Dhana means wealth. So we see here in the verse, the second last line, Sire Vandi Nija Dhana. So Nija means your own or my own. Nija means your own. And Dhana means wealth or property, your own treasure. Srila Prabhupada's nicely bringing out here in the purport that for a devotee, the only real possession is the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. Although a devotee might or does have other possessions, no doubt, some possessions are needed to live in the material world, in a body to perform devotional service, to maintain the body of the families, etc., maintain the body of everybody. But they're not really the possessions. And why? Because we can't take that with us when we go, right? So a possession is something that you own, right? If you own something, then you can deal with it how you want to deal with it, right? So just like in the legal system, if you own a car, you can take that car, you can drive around, do what you want. But if you go and get in someone else's car and start driving it around, then there'll be some legal consequences, right? Because it's not your property. You can't deal with it. So in the material and mundane sense, so property is something that we can take with us. We can deal with how we want to, right? And so when you take that to the ultimate level, the things of this material world are not really our property because we can't deal with them how we want. We can't take them with us, right? We at the end of this life, the body has to stay here and we have to go, right? And so not only the body stays here, but all of the possessions, all of the family members, all of the house, the wealth, everything we have stays here. And what can we take with us? We can only take the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the Vaishnavas, what service we have done in this life for the Lord and his devotees. Only that we can take, right? So actually, from a devotee's perspective, this is actually the only possession, because it's the only thing that you can take. And as Srila Prabhupada writes here, for a materialistic person, someone in the material consciousness, and of course we're between material consciousness and spiritual consciousness. Sometimes we're very spiritual, our consciousness is very good, we're in the class, we chanted very good rounds, everything. And then sometimes we get a bit more, we get affected by these different modes of nature. So even for practicing devotees, this is something that we can see. That sometimes we think, the material possessions are very important in and of themselves, But this is a materialistic viewpoint, right? And Prabhupada is saying here in the purport, for a materialistic person, material wealth and opulence are only illusory. Actually, they are not possessions, but entanglements. Because by enjoying the material world, a conditioned soul becomes more and more entangled by incurring debts, for his present enjoyment, right? So it's illusory because it's temporary. It's temporary, the enjoyment is temporary. But another thing to say, Prabhupada is saying here, debts, right? We are materialistic persons, they're becoming more entangled by incurring debts for present enjoyment. So what does that mean? So we can see that nowadays the heads of big companies, they're kind of like what kings were in the past, right? They have so much opulence, so much money, there's so much influence, they can get things done. So we can see there's one example that comes to mind of someone who owns a huge big company and they're fabulously wealthy, maybe the most wealthy man in the whole world, right? But if you look that within that organization, there's hundreds and thousands of people who are working very, very hard, right? And sometimes they say, why we're working so hard? We have to run around this warehouse to get this, to get that, and then there's the time and this. They're working very, very hard. So we might think, wow, he's enjoying so much, this man, he's doing so well. But all of these people are working very hard so he can enjoy, right? So what does that mean? That means that, as Prabhupada's saying here, could I get some water? Prabhupada's saying here that he's incurring debts, right? And just to think about the mathematics of it, for that one person to enjoy, how many thousands of people are working very hard? So if you spin it around the other way, think how many thousands of lifetimes that person would have to kind of pay back that, working hard so someone else can be the thing. It's a very bad deal, actually. Incurring debts to people. And no doubt but materialistic people, they don't want to think about the debts, but just enjoy now. So this is really the idea of a credit card, right? We have the credit card, right? Or the payday lenders now. There's so many. They have the big sign. If you don't have money, that's okay. I can't remember the name of the company, but just just put it on the something. Huh? Well, lay-by is okay because at least you're paying it off before you get it. Afterpay, exactly. Yeah. And the interest rates are incredible, right? So everybody wants it wants it right now, but then later on they have to pay so much, right? So this is the debt, the credit card or these kind of programs. So this is just like material consciousness, that material activities. So if somebody puts, getting things of this material world as their main focus, they don't care about what debts they're incurring. They don't care about often if they're even killing animals, for example, for their own enjoyment or for their business, and they may even have to come back as an animal, right? To repay that debt, to repay that karmic debt, So this is materialistic life is actually, you might say, it's the ultimate credit card scam. So we have the credit card scams nowadays, right? But this is the ultimate credit card scam. That you can enjoy, it'll be wonderful. But at the end of life, the sheet is given, right? You have to pay your debt, and with interest. You have to pay with interest. Thank you. So we'll have a little sloka quiz here in the middle of the class, just to keep everyone on their toes. Who knows the sloka out of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says that this kind of happiness, where you're just immediately happy right now, but then later on, it's so much suffering you have to pay back the debt. Who knows that sloka? Lakshmi-man? Do you know that one? This is a great sloka for...
Can I say it in English?
Yes, you can.
That which at first tastes sweet. That which
Yes.
at first tastes sweet in the end is
Yeah.
poison, and that which at first is bitter.
Yes. Haribol! Well done. Yeah, and knowing the English is the important bit, because it's the meaning that's important, not the sound of it. But exactly, right? And what is that? What is that mode? What does Krishna say? out of goodness, passion, ignorance, of those three modes of nature.
The mode of goodness is when it's very sweet. The mode of
Yeah, but the one you said first, that when something's very sweet in the beginning, but then later on it's really bitter and suffering. Yes, that's the mode of passion, right? That's Rajagun, right? And so this is, well, I'll say the Sanskrit, right? Vishayendriya samyogad yattad agre mritopamam. So even in Bengali we have that word agre, means before. Agre means in the beginning. Amritopamam is like nectar. Pariname, in the end, visham iva. Visha means like poison. Tatsukam rajasam smritam. That's rajasic. Right? Passionate happiness. Oh, it's so great. And then, so this is the emblem of this kind of idea. You know, just enjoy now, don't worry about later. This is mode of passion, right? But what is the opposite of that? What is the mode of goodness? Anyone know that sloka? Anyone know the Sanskrit to that? Yattad agre visham iva. The opposite, right? Yattad agre visham iva. That in the beginning, which is like poison. Pariname amritopamam. But in the end is like nectar, right? Tatsukam satvikam proktam. That's mode of goodness. Atma buddhi prasadajam. It actually gives satisfaction to the self, the Atma. Right? Actually gives satisfaction to the self, not just the senses. So that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So devotees are performing these kind of activities. They're in the mode of goodness. They might be difficult in the beginning. They are difficult in the beginning. Controlling the mind, controlling the senses, waking up early, coming to the program, chanting the rounds, even though we don't feel like it, still doing it. This is happiness in the mode of goodness. Because it's difficult in the beginning, right? But then later on, it's like nectar. It's like nectar, right? And in the 14th chapter, so who knows what the 14th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is all about? What's that called? The three gunas, yes. He's teaching every day this, so he must. The three modes of material nature, the three gunas, right? That's the whole 14th chapter. So right at the end of the 14th chapter, Krishna says this. He says, O son of Pandu, he who does not hate illumination, attachment and delusion when they are present, or long for them when they disappear, who is unwavering and undisturbed through all these reactions of the material qualities, remaining neutral and transcendental, knowing that the modes alone are active, who is situated in the self and regards alike happiness and distress, who looks upon a lump of earth, a stone and a piece of gold with an equal eye, who is equal toward the desirable and the undesirable, who is steady, situated equally well in praise and blame, honor, dishonor, who treats alike both friend and enemy, and who has renounced all material activities. Such a person is said to have transcended the modes of nature. Okay, so this is the symptoms. And Prabhupada says here, this is having no envy. Having no envy, not wanting something, means we have no material aspirations, right? So becoming free from the modes, as Krishna is saying, you look at gold, you look at a stone with an equal eye. Because what does it matter? If you're getting some gold from somewhere, there's going to be some big reaction. Whoever gave you the gold was probably doing something, right? And a stone. So like this, a devotee is not so keen to get material things. Not so, because he knows, oh, there's going to be a debt, right? Sometimes even people say, oh, it's okay, I found it, or something like that. But then someone might have come back and got that, right? There's always a debt. We're better off not getting any more debts, right? Karmic debts. We're trying to deal with, our fan is still going, right? Prabhupada said we pulled the fan out, but the fan blades are still going. So we don't want to take any more debt. You know, take anything that's not ours. So the Ishavashamidam Savam Yakkicha Jagatam Jagat Tena Chaktena Bunjutam Magrida Kasashadana. Whatever's allotted to us, we accept that. But we know that we'll have to pay. We'll have to pay. There's no such thing as a free lunch or dinner or breakfast. You know, we have to pay. So devotees are very careful about this, what they take. They take just what is given to them. what comes through their natural work, through their honest labor, they accept that. This way we can also become free from envy, right? Of wanting. And envy is just basically when someone else has something. But if we're not trying to get something, if we're not trying to achieve something in the world, if we see somebody else has it, we don't care, right? If we're not trying to be rich and famous, and we see someone who's so rich and famous, we don't care. But if we have that desire, oh, I have this desire, I want people to know about me, I want to have all the riches. If we have those desires, then we see someone with that, we go, oh, why they've got that, right? It's just because we have invested, we're thinking that's what I want, right? So if we understand this, and then in the association of devotees, we can see a devotee has some good qualities, and we can then want to throw some shade, oh, they're not that good, or something like that. But actually, the reason we're attracted to them is because they have a quality that we don't have, and we want that quality. So what we should be doing is glorifying that quality, pulling out that quality. Wow, they've got this quality. Wow, look at them. Then we take on that. But if we're envious, we see the quality we actually want, and we push down that. The very thing we're trying to get, that we're attracted to, we're pushing that down. That's crazy, right? But that's envy. Where the envy comes because someone has something we don't have, whether in associated devotees or materialistically. So if we see that, we can see, oh, how can we take on that good quality if it's a devotee, rather than minimizing it. Try to glorify that, bring that up, and then we take on that quality. I'm mostly preaching to myself here, of course, so just so you don't think that I'm very good at doing this. I'm trying. So how do we progress on from this, right? How do we progress on? How do we not dwell on the material desires? How do we not dwell on the faults of other devotees? All these things. We have to, right, be aware of the mind. Isn't that the Yoga Sutra? The first one is Yoga Vritti, something like that. And Chitta Vritti Nirodha, right? The whole process of yoga is how to actually still the mind, virodha, to still the mind from acting in this, right? And all of the religions of the world, even Christianity, especially Buddhism, all of the Hindu, everybody understands the path of yoga is to stop the mind from getting involved in all these things, right? If the mind is thinking, I want this, and somebody else has that, we get bent out of shape. So we have to be conscious of how the mind is thinking. So what's that called? What's that concept when something is conscious of itself? The category. What do you call that? It's a very famous term nowadays. Huh? Self-awareness, mindfulness, yeah. But it's called meta-thinking, right? So we're entering the metaverse now, right? This is the real metaverse. People like the term meta now, right? Facebook changed its name to Meta now, right? The meta actually means, like you have a meta language, is a language that talks about a language. How is language made up? That's a meta language. So we have to do meta thinking. So we have to think about how are we thinking, right? This is Yoga Chitta Nirodha, right? What is it again? Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, right? Yes. So this is, we have to think about, because if we're not thinking about how we're thinking, then we have no chance, right? If we're just, I think this, that is reality. I like this, that's reality. It's my truth, whatever. I don't like this, that's my reality. Then we complete slave to the mind, right? And the previous conditioning. That's all it is, right? And Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained this, that in previous lives we've done certain activities associated with certain modes, and we've had some material desire to do something or other, and then when that's achieved, that's called happiness. That's all it is. We just associated with something in a previous life, and we saw that and we thought, wow, and we develop that, we meditate on it for a long, long time, and then if finally through some austerities we get that, that's called material happiness. That's it. That's all it is, right? So if we're not thinking about how our mind's thinking, we can't think. We have no chance. We're not even on the yogic path, right? This is the yogic path. It's how we focusing our mind on good things, letting go of the negative things. So, who knows the sloka where Krishna says this very clearly, that when the conditioned soul, although they're the nature of Shakti, of energy, they take on the position of Purusha. They take that position of the enjoyer. And their happiness is dependent on what they associate with, what they think about, what they meditate on. Who knows that verse? No? This is probably one of my favorite verses, just side point, in Gita. This is an incredible verse. Everyone should know this verse, okay? 13:22. Udi, take out your phone and write this down. 13:22. You need to know this. Huh? Udi's there, he can do it. All right, 13:22. Purusha prakritisto hi bhunkte prakritijan gunam. Karanam guna sangosha sad asad yoni janmasu. Right? Everybody heard that verse? You know that verse, right? Incredible verse. It's just like, I think I remember Burujan Prabhu saying this is like his favorite verse. No, I agree with him. It's incredible. Just the depth of this. It just lays out the whole thing. We take on the position of the enjoyer and we associate with different modes of nature, and then we get good or bad results. It's just, that's it. Right? The living entity in material nature thus follows the ways of life, enjoying the three modes of nature. This is due to his association with that material nature. Thus he meets with good and evil among various species. So, karana means the cause. Gunas, these gunas we're talking about, goodness, passion, ignorance. And sangha means to associate with, right? To think about, to meditate on those. Sat, asat. Sat means good, asat means bad. So then we get the future situation is good or bad, right? It's all about what we're focusing on. This is the process of yoga. And so in the 14th chapter, Krishna says, what is the ultimate solution to all of that? Okay, so we know we're coming to the mode of goodness, but what's the ultimate solution? How do we completely get free from these modes? End of the 14th chapter. Somebody must know this verse. Everybody's going to study slokas next time I give class, right? They're going to go, oh God, David's giving class. Regular slokas. No, David, that's close. Hey?
Surrender?
Yeah, but what's the verse? It's literally the last or second last verse of 14th chapter of modes of nature, and he says how to ultimately totally solve the problem of these modes of nature all together. Prabhu? Yes. Can you tell us? Yep. Thank you. And the translation? I can do that. Okay. Yeah. So this is text verse 14:26. Okay, super important verse. Prabhupada quotes this hundreds and hundreds of times, right? And just quotes little bits of it as well. It's a fully pregnant with meaning verse, this one, right? Mam chayo vyabhicharina bhakti sevate. Sagunan samaditya brahma bhuyaya kalpate bhakti yoga nasevate. So we see the impersonalists don't usually like to translate this one because Krishna lays it out it's pretty hard to translate bhakti yoga nasevate in a non-bhakti yoga way because Krishna's just giving it, right? To transcend the modes of nature, you engage in bhakti yoga, right? And how? Mam, to me, chayo avyabhicharina, right? Without ceasing. Not every Sunday come to the temple, come to the church. Not twice a week, not 3 times a week, and then just do whatever you want. No, continually, right? Continually, year after year after year. Avyabhicharina. Bhakti yoga nasevate. Those gunas, sa gunan samatityaitan. You'll transcend them. And brahma bhuyaya kalpate, right? you'll come to that spiritual level above these modes, goodness, passion, ignorance. Okay? So one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman, right? The spiritual platform. Brahman means the pure spiritual level, beyond all the workings of the material world. So then the question comes is, okay, that's good, but then how do I engage in unfailing devotional service, okay? I have still some material desires, I have some material needs, I have some interest in the world, at the same time I want to be a devotee, I want to develop my bhakti. How do I do that, okay? And so this is the process is given, this is the Varnashram system, basically, right? The whole Varnashram system. It's not direct service to Krishna, right? It's not direct service, looking after the children, the wife, the house, the car. That's not direct service to Krishna, right? But it's indirect service, right? So we know the fourth seed sloka of Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma is saying there, you have to search for the absolute truth in all times and places, both directly and indirectly, okay? Directly and indirectly. And the direct is hearing, chanting, remembering, right? And the indirect is everything else that supports that, right? So the whole Varnashram system is there to support this avyabhicharena bhakti yoga, okay? Because if, just like today we have a seminar on mental health, looking after ourselves, mentally, emotionally, as well as physically. If all of these levels are not there, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur talks about this as well, that if those levels are not there, then the sadhana can't be regular, right? If our home situation is so disturbed, if the bank is foreclosing on our house, and then all of these problems are happening, it's very difficult to steadily do devotional service, okay? So we all, tattenu kampam susamiksha, when the difficulties come, we take shelter of Krishna, but we don't try for difficulties, right? We try for a peaceful situation, because that's how we can, continue this devotional service year after year, decade after decade, right? So, if we see things in this light, then we don't have any questions about, what about my material activities? What about my material life? Because we'll see that is a part of your service, but that's the indirect part of it, right? We can't say that's not service. Looking after our body, taking bath, being clean, everything, earning money, looking after our family if we're a householder, looking after ashram if we're brahmachari, keeping our cloth clean, all of these different things. That is the indirect service. That supports the direct service, right? All our activities are meant to support continuous devotional service. So if we're married and our spouse is very averse to service, why are you going to the temple? That nonsense, blah blah blah. Very difficult, right? How could you be very disturbing, right? Be very disturbing to be in that situation. So it has a direct effect on our ability to keep doing devotional service year after year after year. And Prabhupada gave the example of Gajendra the elephant, right? That when we're situated like Gajendra, he was an elephant, he was fighting a crocodile. That crocodile, he was dragging him into the water, and in the water the crocodile is in his element, so he was becoming stronger and stronger. But the elephant was becoming weaker because he was out of his element. So we have to see, what is our element? Where are we situated naturally? Are we in our varna and in our ashram? Are we in whether we have a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra kind of mentality with our work, all of these different things. However whatever naturally is suited to us, we have to try to be there, like Gajendra. We have to try to be in our proper situation. And we take advice from others, we take advice from devotees, situate ourselves in a proper ashram to do devotional service, but never losing sight that it's for this purpose, right? Avyabhicharina. It's for the direct service. Prabhupada says this. So we have to mold our life in such a way that we shall always remember Krishna. Therefore, remembering Krishna is my primary business, right? Very deep. Prabhupada's got the whole philosophy here in this one paragraph. We have to mold our life in such a way that we will always remember Krishna. That's with our mind. That's what we're doing. With our mind, we're remembering Krishna. Then he says, and we have to act in such a way that we may not forget Krishna. So what is that? That's Varnashram. Not forgetting Krishna. There's two things, right? Remembering Krishna, that's the direct service. Not forgetting him, that's the indirect. So not becoming entangled, not becoming so disturbed and da-da-da. That's the Varnashram, right? That's the indirect. We have to act in such a way, so we have to act, we have to do with our occupation, with our family life if we're householders, with our, how we deal with our service, everything, in such a way that we don't forget Krishna. That should be the principle, that is the secret. Therefore it is equally good for anyone because we can engage anyone in the business of Krishna. If somebody has knowledge, he can simply sweep over the floor of Krishna's temple. That will make him remembering Krishna, that I am cleansing the floor of Krishna's temple. He's as good as the editor of Back to Godhead. Haribol. Who's sweeping the temple here? Yeah, as good as editor of Back to Godhead. Prabhupada said. Haribol. Right? Why? But why? Why does he say that? Why is it as good? The editor of Back to Godhead, he's doing a very Brahminical thing, very focused, mode of goodness. He's sitting there, sweeping the floor. It's a very menial sort of service, simple thing. But why is it as good? Because you're remembering Krishna, right? By doing that. So what is important is that the activity matches our ability, our propensity, right? That's what's important so that we can remember Krishna. The remembering Krishna is the important thing. Of course, the devotee can do anything. It doesn't matter, oh, this doesn't match my propensity. We don't, not like that. We're not saying like that. The devotee does anything. But the important thing is that we're engaged in something for Krishna. We're engaged in something for Krishna. If we're not intellectual and we can't edit Back to God, it doesn't matter. We can sweep the floor, or we can go on Sankirtan, distribute books, do Harinam, whatever we're doing, but we're thinking, oh, this is my service to Krishna. We're offering the service to Krishna through our spiritual masters, right? I had a bit of thing to talk about Raghunath Das Goswami here. But I'll leave some time for questions. If there's no questions, I'll talk on this. But is there any questions on any of this?
Class.
Oh, that's
you
good.
mentioned previously about how everything's the property of Krishna, and I know my Brahma Goswami also says when you keep sand, proprietorship, it turns into gold. So how to, because we know from Ishopanishad that everything belongs to God, to Krishna, and we should look after it nicely. And sometimes also we see when devotees, when we are trained up, but we, like one Swami said, water seeks its own level. So how can we just not be at where we are and do things more consciously? It's not like also for devotees the side effect is name, fame and profit and adoration. But then pride comes, and then not being so conscious of the background, just being aware, okay, maybe I'm dressing or doing some service and people will see me, or strategically taking photos, putting it on social media, but they're not taking care of every other thing, like being conscious of. So how do we not fall down to that, or if we are at that, how do we get that inspiration, because we may know theoretically that we're supposed to do everything nicely for Krishna.
Yeah, it's a constant endeavour, because exactly as you said, we are mixed devotees. Like your Guru Maharaj said the other day, such a nice class he gave the other day. Such a nice class. But he said we have to be honest, we have to be honest. What's the use in saying, oh, we're so totally fixed in Krishna consciousness? No, we're in the hospital, right? We're getting better. So there's a mix, right? Karma Mishra, Jnana Mishra, we're mixed. But the example is given like when you make ghee, you heat the butter and the stuff is coming up, right? And you take it off the top, right? And then some more comes and you take it off. But you don't stop taking it off. You don't think, oh, forget this, I can't, it just keeps coming, what's the use? No, you just keep taking that stuff off, and eventually, after take some time, eventually the little bit less starts to come up. You take that off, and eventually a little bit less, and a little bit less. And then finally it's just pure ghee, So like that, we're in the process, and if we, in that process, if something comes up, and we realize, and we look back about, I did that out of, I could have stood there and done the thing, but I walked out there so people would see me or something. If we think later we did something with a desire to be noticed or something like that, then we think, oh, that's okay, I'm still work in progress, We don't beat ourselves up about that, because we know we're not pure devotees. It's going to come up, things are going to come up. We have thousands of lifetimes of materialistic activity that is stored in our hearts, and as Prabhupada said, we've taken out the plug, but the fan is still spinning to some degree, and we have to be a little bit accepting of others, but also accepting of ourselves, that this is where I'm at, and it's okay. Sometimes I don't come to that higher standard, but that's because I'm still in that process of taking the impurities off. And was that something else in that question? Was that it? Yeah? Like, I know my Guru Maharaj used to say, that we have some things come into the mind, but we don't know where it's come from. It might be from previous life activities. It may be that somebody else in the room is thinking that and it affects the ether and we start to think that. It may just be some disembodied entity. We don't know. We don't know how things are coming to our mind, but we don't need to identify very strongly, this is coming into my mind. It's just like, it comes, it goes. It's, what do you say? Healthy skepticism of the mind is a pretty good place to be in spiritual life, We don't need to disignore the mind, Pratyaksha is one of the Vedic sources of evidence, so if we directly perceive something, it is a form of evidence, but we're a little bit skeptical of our own mind, in that sense, our own emotions, I feel this. But is that just my issue, or is it their issue? Or I'm not sure. Maybe that. We just kind of not exactly sure. Now, let me keep going. What I am sure about is if I chant this mantra, I go beyond that. The mantra is always there. The spiritual vibration is always there, and our minds will go this way and that way. And but it gradually gets down. The better we apply it. Is that okay? Yep.
There's a new age thought that's sort of about living from the heart. But then, from what you just said, we have samskaras in the heart as well. So it's also that's not necessarily a truth being passed around now either. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's nice to live from there, but
it's
it's not totally open. There are,
Yeah.
I can feel when it's getting purified. There's pain, pangs, and things in that, which is great.
Yeah. It is true. It's just a partial truth, because what they don't say is that the heart is also contaminated and covered. And Krishna says in Gita, this lust or this material, sort of desires, they're all over. They're in the mind, they're in the heart, they're in the body, they're in the intelligence. It's everywhere. So it is true though, what they're saying is true, that we have to in some degree kind of ignore the Maya or the materialistic thoughts in our mind and listen to Krishna in our heart. You know, we have to listen to Krishna in our heart and ignore. But at the same time, that heart, and Krishna's super soul is inside the heart, but there's still material covering as well. So we listen to it, but we can't completely rely on that because there's some material covering. Now when the great devotees, you know, when the Mahabhagavatas, when they're completely free, then they listen to the heart. Krishna talks to them in the heart directly. Then we can listen to our heart when Krishna's talking. But we listen and then we still have some tentativeness, you know, Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. We check with these things, what our heart is thinking, what else. But they're right in that sense. It is true. We have to listen to our heart and not so much that way.
And feelings? We express our feelings, which maybe come from the heart.
Yeah, well, we can't really, because we can look back in our life, right? You know, 10 years ago we felt something, right? We felt this was really important. Like my, where is he? Where's Saber? Oh, he's off playing now. But like my 3-year-old, to him the most important thing is his little toy that he's got, you know, and how to put the thing. And he feels that. Like, don't try to tell him he does not. He's feeling it. You can't try to, right? So he's feeling that, and he's trusting. Everything is there. But then that feeling changes, right? So my old boy, Rama, he's 17. Right? Gopal, he's 16. 16? He's still 15. 16. So now their feelings are different. They're feeling like, oh yeah, did you see this meme? Oh, that was hilarious. Did you see that guy? Oh wow, what an idiot. They have different feelings, right? So we can see in our life our feelings change, right? So what we're sorry if that was a bad representation. But our feelings, they change. So if something is changing, if we look back in our life and this is changing, then we can't rely on it, right? Because we feel this very strongly, you know? And yeah, so it's the same thing. We have, there's a really nice sloka actually. It's called, what's that one? Karmas. It says there's lust only, Arjuna. There is a Kama Esha, Krodesha, Rajaguna, somewhere. Yeah. So in the purport of that, Prabhupada gives this like confidential knowledge. And if you grasp this, Bhakti Tirtha Swami, great guru who left the planet for quite a number of years, he used to always talk about this concept that Prabhupada says in the purport of that verse, Raja Esha Rajaguna, that this idea of lust is actually love of God, which is perverted. It's contaminated. It's just like pure sunlight, but then you look at it through something with all different kinds of dirt or whatever in it, a glass that's all dirty or whatever, like that. So these feelings we have, the power of that is love of God. The energy of it is love of God, right? Otherwise, where does that emotion come from? Because matter doesn't have emotion. So we're feeling emotion. It is love of God. It is, but Prabhupada says it's perverted. It's changed by our material conditioning, right? So we may feel something very strongly, but the result of that feeling is it's not pure love of God. It's contaminated. You know, oh, we should do this for everyone in the world. Whatever it is, we have some very strong emotion, but we're contaminated by our own perspective, by our limited understanding of karma and everything else. So that's why we can't really fully trust the feelings. Yeah. Although the basis of them is love of God itself. And that's why we purify, right? Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sajja Kabunai Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte. Shuddha means the heart. Shuddha means purified. Chitta means the heart. This process purifies the heart. Karaya Udai. Then naturally that love awakens.
So like very strong, passionate feelings, that can give us energy. It's maybe best to, use the intelligence and go, okay, how can we utilise that?
Exactly. How can we utilise?
How that can be utilised?
Yes.
In service.
Yes. Exactly. That's the. Yes, because that transforms that lust back into love, pure love. It starts with pure love, it comes into our heart, it's coming from our heart, then it's changed around because of our material conditioning, but then if we then utilize it and say, all right, how can I serve God? How can I serve the Lord with this feeling? Then it transforms it back.
Just want to say there's a special breakfast out there this morning.
Yep. There's a special breakfast out there this morning.
Yeah, it's someone's birthday and he's waiting.
He's waiting. Sorry?
Sponsored by Adi-lila. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry? Oh, Rupa's birthday. We're only 2 minutes over. I mean, I'm not that bad. But was there Baba had a question. Sorry? He's got party bags and everything.
Party bags.
Wow.
Exciting. And he's a great devotee.
All right, quickly, Baba, you better make it quick.
It's just before you said like anything free, like what about your parents? They give you so much for free.
Yeah, so you're indebted to them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why Vedic culture is, you look after the parents, like when you're little, the parents look after you, and then when they get old, then you look after them. And you know, as you know, I'm studying Vedic astrology, and a lot of that is, a lot of the issues people have, you see issues around moon and stuff, is exactly this. You literally say to people, oh, it says here in your chart, you didn't look after your parents well, so in this life there's some affliction to that. So yeah, so it's very important. Radha's in the back, nodding her head. Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys. Take Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai.